Hi everyone, you're welcome back to another tutorial. This is like my first tutorial in a long while and I'm so excited to be back posting. So today we're going to learn how to make this cute bucket bag. As you can see, it's very small, so this bag is just like a fashion accessory you can just carry for your weddings or parties, and it's very simple to make. Let's learn how to make it together. For this project you need some beads. I have my beads here. Today I'll be using marble beads. Then I'll also need smaller size of beads, and right there on the side I have my melon beads in size 8mm. You'll also need some fishing line. Today we'll use 0.70mm, and lastly we'll need our scissors. That's all we'll need for this. Now let's get to work. To start, you cut out some line, a length that will be comfortable for you to work with. Then on the left hand side we're going to start with 3 beads. Once that's done, we drag down 2, then we cross into the last one. And now we have our first ring. To continue, on the left hand side alone, I'm going to add 2 beads. Then I cross both ends of my line into the last one. And now we have our second ring. Now to work on the third ring, we're going to start interchanging the steps moving forward. So the last part I added the beads were on the left. This time around, on the right hand side alone, I will add 2 beads and cross into the last one. And now we have the third ring. So like I said, we're going to keep interchanging the steps. So this time around, rather than the right, we add the 2 beads on the left. And now we have the fourth ring. Let's do that together one more time. The last part I added the beads was where on the left, so this time on the right I'll add 2 beads and cross into the last one. As you can see, the process is very simple. So far we have done 5 rings in total. I will then keep this going until I get to my desired length. Okay, so right now I want my desired length to be about 10 rings, but I'm going to stop at the 9th ring so that we can finish up the 10th ring together. Let's go. I'm here now almost at 9 rings. Let's complete the 9th one together first. So on the left hand side I'll add 2 beads and cross into the last one. And now I have done 9 rings in total. Now it's time to complete this first row of our bag. I want to finish this up at 10 rings. The last pattern I just did was to add the 2 beads on the left. What I'm going to do right now is to repeat the same step because I'm trying to finish up the row. So still on the left hand side, I'll add 2 beads and cross into the last one. This will take me over to the other side of my work. Okay, now we're done with the first row. This is what your work should look like as well. The reason why I started with 10 rings was because I was working with limited beads. But if you're working on this bag, you need to get enough beads, and I'll advise you to start with a length of either 14 rings or 18 or 22. Now you might ask, why those particular numbers? Well, you want to choose numbers that when divided by 2, they'll bring out an odd number. So for example, I chose 10 rings in total. 10 divided by 2 is 5. If you were to choose 14, 14 divided by 2 is 7. And if you were to choose 18, 18 divided by 2 is 9. So you want to choose even numbers that are divisible by 2, and when divided, they'll bring out an odd number. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now let's proceed to the next row. On the left hand side, I'm going to start a new row with 2 beads. Then I cross into the last one. And now we have the first ring on the second row. To proceed now, I'm going to add on the left hand side 2 beads. Then I cross into the last one. And now we have the second ring on the second row. Now if you notice, you see like a flower like pattern. Okay, that's what the pattern is forming. But if you look right there, we haven't completed it. What I want to do right now is to take the right hand side through the next bead. Then on the left hand side we'll add just 1 bead through the line. Then we draw that all the way down. And now we have completed the pattern. To proceed, we're going to start a new flower like pattern. So firstly, on the left hand side we start with 2 beads, then we'll cross into the last one. Like I said, we are working on a flower like pattern here. Before we close up that pattern, the right will go through the next bead, then on the left we add just one bead to close that pattern. Now we are done with that. So this process is simple, okay? We're just going to keep up with it until we get to like the last bead right there. So meet me all the way at that last bead. Let's go. I'm here now at that last bead, and as you can see, we have an incomplete flower pattern right there, so we have to complete it. The right will go through the next bead, then on the left we add just one bead to close that up. And now we're done with that. But we are not done with this row yet. We have just one more step to go because we're trying to go over to the other side. This time around, I won't add any beads on the left to be on the right hand side of my line, okay? I'll add 2 beads and cross into the last one. This will take me over to the other side of my work where I can then start a new row. So finally we're done with the second row of our work. Now let's do this process together just one more time, okay? Then I'll leave you to complete the entire row for this bag on your own. Let's do that. To start a new row, on the left hand side we start with what? 2 beads. Then we cross into the last one. Once that is done, because we're trying to work on a flower pattern, we start again with another 2 beads. Then we cross into the last one. Now we have the second ring on the third row. Let's complete this flower pattern. What do? The right will go through the next bead, then we take just one bead to close that pattern up. Okay, I hope that part is clear. Then to continue, we have to start another flowery pattern. So on the left hand side we start with 2 beads again, then we cross into the last one. Once that is done, in order to complete this next flower pattern, the right will go through the next bead, then we take just one bead to close that up. Yes, this pattern is very simple to do, just like we did earlier. Let's meet at the last bead on this row. I'm here at the last bead on this row. Let's finish that up. The right will go through the next bead, and on the left hand side we just take one more bead to close that flower like pattern. We are still not done with the row. We still have one more step to do. So what do we do right here? Because we're trying to go over to the other side, on the right instead of the left, we're going to add 2 beads. Then we cross into the last one, and this will take us over to the other side. And now we are done with the third row. I hope by now that this explanation is clear to you. We are then going to repeat these steps until we reach our desired row height. So far I have done 3 rows in total. I'll keep this going until I get to 5 rows in total, okay? 5 rows. So let's meet right there. I'm done building the rows. I have done 5 rows in total, and I have also ended my line as well. This is what your work should look like. It is now time to work on the next step. We want to join this mat, okay, to make it an actual bag. To do that, let's cut out a new line. Then we're going to roll up our work like this. Now let's start the joining from this bead right here, okay? We're going to pass our line through that bead. Then on the left hand side of the line, we're going to start a new ring with 2 beads, just like this. Once that is done, I will then connect the left hand side of my line through that bead right there on the other side. Once that is done, I will then take one more bead and cross both ends of my line into that bead. And now I have finished joining the first step of our bag. To continue now, the left hand side will go through that next bead on the left. Then we'll take one more bead to close that up. We're now at this final part on this second step, so the right would go through the next bead on the right. Then we take one more bead to close that up. And now we are done closing the second step of our bag, and as you can see, it has formed a flower like pattern. So this is what your work should look like as well. Now to continue, we are going to interchange the steps. So all through the last 2 steps, I was going through the left. Now this time the right hand side would go through the next bead right there. Then I'll take one more bead to close that up. To continue, the right would go through the next bead, then we'll take one more bead to close that up. And now we have finished creating another flower-like pattern, as you can see. And that means to continue we have to interchange the steps. So the last part I worked on was on the right. That means we're going to start working with our left hand side now. Left would go through the next bead, then we take one more bead to close that up. Once that is done, the right will then go through the next bead there, then we take one more bead to close that up. But now at the final part, we have to interchange this again. So we start with the right through the next bead, and on the left we close with one. The right will go through the next bead, and on the left we close with one. And finally we are done joining the body of our bag. So from here on, let us then pass around our line to end it. I'm done joining, and here is what my bag looks like so far. We have then created the cylinder shape of the bag. It is now time for the next part. We have to join the bottom of our bag to give it that structure, okay? So this process is very straightforward. You're going to cut out some line, then pass it through one of those beads at the bottom. Then on the left hand side, you're going to start with one big bead, one small bead, and one big bead. Then you cross both ends of your line through the last big bead added, and now you have made the first ring at the bottom. To continue, the right would go through the next bead, then on the left we're going to add one small bead and one big bead. Let's do that again together. Right will go through the next bead, and on the left one small bead and one big bead. This pattern is very simple. Let us then keep it going until we get to the last bead right there. Let's go. I have beaded all around this. I'm here at the last bead right here. So the right would go through the next bead, that bead right there on the side, because we are at a dead end. Then we close up with just one bead. Now we are done joining the bottom part. We still have just one more thing to do, okay? We have to pass our line through the middle beads right there to make sure it's much more firmer. So just pass your line through it, and once that is done, you just tie your work and pass it around. So let's do that. I'm done with that, and here is what my work looks like. So I'm just going to press that right in, and yeah, we have gotten the bottom parts of our bag. We still have work to do, okay? We are still not done with our bag. Now all we need to do is to fill in the holes on the bag. See those holes in the middle of that flower-like pattern? We are going to fill that in, and that will also make our bag much more firmer. Let's do that now. We're going to cut out some line and pass it through. Let's start from this second step, okay? Pass your line through one of those beads. Then you're going to add one small bead on the right, then connect it to the next bead. Do that again. One small bead, connect it to the next bead. We're then going to keep up with this step until we get all around. Let's meet at the other side of the bag. I'm here at the other side. I have beaded all the way around. I will then take one more bead and cross both ends of my line through that bead, because I'm at the last part here. There isn't really too much to explain in this part. I feel like the step is very simple to understand. You're just going to keep filling in the holes as you go all the way up. Let's just meet right there at the next step. Let's go. I'm done filling up the holes, and as you can see, my work looks much more firmer. My bag is coming along very nicely. It's now time to work on the handle of our bag. To do that, we're going to cut out some line, then pass it through one of those marble beads right there. Draw that out. Then on both sides of the line, I'm going to add one marble bead each. Then I'm going to join both ends of my line like this. I will then begin to add the beads. I'm going to add an amount of bead that would be enough. I think I'll add about 4 beads in total. Once that is done, I will then split both ends. Then on both sides, I'll add 1 bead each. I will then connect you to that bead where we are facing. Make sure it's very tight. And from here, I'm going to pass my line around, and I'll also tie it so it won't loosen up. And that's it. As simple as that. That concludes the making of our bag. I hope yours looks as good as this. So like I said earlier, if you'd like to make your bag much bigger, make sure you start with a number that when divided by 2 would give you an odd number. Numbers like 14, 18, 22. And also try using a much thicker line to add to the firmness of your bag. Do let me know if you have any more questions, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.